Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of Harry Potter, inside of Hogwarts, and he is a serpent. What is he gonna do inside of Hogwarts?
How talented he is, he should not be underestimated. The main reason Hogwarts doesn't teach these dangerous spells is to protect the young wizards themselves. The consequences of teenagers having easy access to firearms are extremely serious. Draco often talks about Durmstrang's ability to learn dark magic, but he completely forgets one thing. Durmstrang practiced military-style management, which is why he was able to teach black magic. It is fundamentally different from the joyful education at Hogwarts. Even so, Durmstrang had his limits and would not allow students to study black magic without any boundaries. That's how Grindelwald was expelled from school. Of course, the explosion curse is much better than dark magic, and Seamus doesn't have antisocial personality disorder. Compared to hurting others, Wit was actually more worried that he might carelessly blow himself up. Do not worry. Seamus confidently raised his wand and, mimicking Wit, began to chant the spell. Thunderous explosion. The red spell shot out rapidly. I did it! Zemo had just let out a joyful roar when he saw his spell hit the stone and bounce back. I rely on. Wit grabbed Zemo and swooped down into the distance. Zemo's spell flew all the way to the Black Lake, creating a huge splash. I told you to focus. Wit shouted, when you're chanting the incantation, you have to focus entirely on imagining the target being blown up in your mind. You can't afford to lose focus for even a second. As a white magic spell, the explosion charm has protective measures in place. It will not explode unless it hits the target you set or reaches its time limit. It will give you plenty of time to dodge. Zemo hadn't even looked at the rock closely. All he could think about was the explosion. The spell flew out without any target and bounced back the moment it touched the stone, almost sending Zemo to the school hospital. What a big splash! Despite being scolded and almost getting blown up, Zemo showed no frustration or fear. He excitedly asked Wit, I succeeded, didn't I? I succeeded on my first attempt at casting the explosion spell. I guess I do have talent. God knows how much pressure these repeated failures of the heavenly curse, with its constant explosions, put on Zemo's mind. Neville has a better reputation than him in Gryffindor. At least if now he fails to chant the spell, it won't explode and won't affect anyone else. Yes, you have talent. Wit pressed down on Seamus's shoulder, forcibly straightening him to face the target rock, and reminded him again, focus and try again. If the explosion curse bounces back this time, I'll show you my newly learned curse for baldness failure. What kind of strange spell is this? Seamus turned his head curiously. Page 33. A medieval wizard with congenital baldness painstakingly invented a spell to cure himself. Although the spell could not cure him, it could make others bald. All the men in the village are bald, so no one will laugh at him for this problem, which can be considered a solution to his problem. In his later years, this wizard wrote a memoir in which he recorded the spell he invented. According to him, the effect is quite good. One incantation will ensure 3 years of peace of mind. Only a special counter-curse can break it. Wit glanced mockingly at Seamus's head and threatened, I don't think you'd want to try out the spell's effects. Zemo covered his hair in fear. Although he was missing a patch of hair, it would grow back quickly. He didn't want to become bald and be laughed at by the whole school for 3 years. Take a deep breath, focus. You can do it, Zemo. With his eyes fixed on the distant rocks, Zemo waved his spell once more. Bang! The stone was successfully blasted into pieces. Very good, Quick. Keep practicing. Wit encouraged, Practice a few more times, get the hang of it, and then try using other spells. You can. After practicing spells with Simo for about 2 hours, just as Simo was about to lie down and rest from exhaustion, an owl flew down in front of Wit. It was a letter from Professor Slughorn. Wit skillfully pulled out some jerky to reward the hard-working owl, then quickly opened the envelope and began to read it. He quickly exclaimed in surprise, "Fire crossbow bolts." "What kind of fire crossbow bolts?" Simo asked curiously. "A broom that is countless times more powerful than the Nimbus 2000 and extremely expensive." Wit whispered, "It's still in testing, and it'll be some time before it's available for sale. Using this thing on the Quidditch pitch in the College Cup would be a game changer." Chapter 38, The Explosion Spell I Just Learned. I can tolerate this. Slughorn heard from somewhere that Harry had been given a Nimbus 2000 broom. Wit didn't mention this to Slughorn. The price of the Nimbus at 2000 was clearly not in the category of a small gift. Wit didn't want Slughorn to misunderstand him as the kind of person who was greedy. He didn't mention a word about Harry's broom. As it turned out, Slughorn found out anyway, and he was even planning to buy one for Wit. However, while browsing the broom shop, Slughorn suddenly remembered that he had a student who had joined a team that specialized in researching brooms and claimed that their products were countless times better than Nimbus 2000. When Slughorn thought about this, he didn't buy a broom and instead wrote a letter to inquire about it. And I went over for a visit. After watching the test flight of the Firebolt, Slughorn was full of praise throughout. The Nimbus 2000, which was originally quite good, now feels completely unpresentable to Slughorn. But if we're talking about buying one, his student is just a member of the team, so it's impossible for him to get it for free. The price of fire bolts. Lucius would feel sorry for him, let alone Slughorn. After much deliberation, Slughorn came up with a plan to barter. In exchange for a large pot of Felix Felicis, one fire crossbow bolt. The brewing of potions cannot increase the amount of materials indefinitely. It can only fluctuate within a certain range. When the ingredients for a potion are increased to a certain extent, the speed of magic conversion will undergo a qualitative leap, a speed that even the most experienced potion masters cannot keep up with. It's okay to cook a larger batch and keep some for later use. If you think that you'll never have to worry about anything again after just one bad experience, you should probably give up that idea as soon as possible. Because the brewing of Felix Felicis is not always successful, Slughorn did not take the firebolt beforehand. Moreover, he doesn't plan to cook it all by himself. Since it's a gift for Wit, Wit definitely has to do some work and help him out. Wit needs to handle the refining of some simple materials and the acquisition of others. Slughorn also emphasized that even if the Felix Felicis failed to be made, he would still buy a Nimbus for 2000 and give it to Wit. After reading the entire letter, Wit was moved, but also somewhat amused. To prepare Felix Felicis and have him assist. Stop it. Slughorn wasn't looking for him to be his assistant. He clearly wanted to personally teach him and relive his passion for being a professor. When Wit first saw the letter, he was prepared to refuse. He had no intention of letting Slughorn pay for the firebolts. 2000 for a Nimbus is already very expensive. It's too hot to handle. But after reading the rest, Wit didn't want to refuse anymore. Slughorn wanted to use this opportunity of refining Felix Felicis to teach him through practice. This is an extremely rare opportunity. Wit can pay back the money for the firebolts when he has more, but this kind of learning opportunity, once missed, is uncertain when it will come again. Simo, you continue practicing here. I have to go ahead. Wit took the envelope and jogged away. He had to carefully consider this letter. He couldn't agree directly, nor could he simply refuse. He needed to think carefully about how to phrase it. Simo. No sooner had Victor left than George, Fred, and Hermione surrounded him. What was that firebolt that Wit just mentioned? How could there possibly be a broomstick more powerful than Nimbus 2000 in the world? As a Quidditch player, George knew the models and functions of flying broomsticks like the back of his hand. You can memorize it with your eyes closed. He was very interested in fire crossbow bolts. Fred also had the same interested expression. When it came to Hermione, she wasn't so interested. Wit is teaching you magic. How did he do it so that your magic can be used so smoothly? Could it be related to the magic enhancement techniques of pure-blood families? Faced with George and Fred's unscrupulous deception, Hermione's leg really did become lame, and she had completely believed that pure-blood families had the technique to enhance magic. Hermione was determined to get a good grade on the exam. You're following me, Seamus's eyes widened. We're tracking Wit. You're just incidental. Fred said with a grin, someone told us that Slytherin would be selecting a new seeker today, so we wanted to come and check it out beforehand. I have to say, he's a formidable opponent. Even with Harry riding the Nimbus 2000, I'm still a little worried that Harry might lose to him. If he gets his hands on that fire crossbow, I can't even imagine how big the score difference will be in the final match. Professor McGonagall must look terrible. Seamus, George said seriously. As a member of Gryffindor, you need to help find out what the firebolt is, what its approximate dimensions are, so we can prepare countermeasures in advance. I won't help you. Seamus broke free from George and Fred's grasp and said angrily, You actually want me to betray Wit a second time? I think you should be assigned to Slytherin. Wit didn't ask you to keep it a secret, Fred said, spreading his hands. How can that be considered betrayal? You have no idea how horrible Professor McGonagall's face looked after the Quidditch match ended in a huge defeat against Slytherin last year. No sooner had George finished speaking than Hermione contradicted him from behind. Come on, if you cared about Professor McGonagall's opinion, you wouldn't be doing all these naughty things every day, causing Gryffindor's points to be deducted again and again. Harry lost more points to Snape than you guys did. That's right. Seamus, who didn't know how to refute it, decisively stood on Hermione's side and joined her in despising George and Fred. Which side are you on? Fred asked Hermione with a hint of helplessness as he saw the situation change drastically. I'm from Gryffindor, Hermione answered with unusual decisiveness. Just as Seamus thought he had found a teammate, Hermione suddenly turned around and said, Did Wit really teach you the technique of purifying magic? That's why you were able to use magic so smoothly today. Don't worry, I understand. I won't ask you what the techniques are. I just want to know if it's true or not. Seamus, degrees, Japanese letter degrees. What's wrong with all of you? Are you all sick? No, Wit didn't teach me any techniques for purifying magic. Seamus didn't like Hermione very much, but he disliked George and Fred even more, so he suppressed his annoyance and answered Hermione's question. I don't believe you, you're lying. Hermione's words completely ignited Seamus's emotions. I just learned the explosion spell. How can I tolerate this? Thunderous explosion. In the afternoon, Wit was writing a letter when McGonagall suddenly called him into her office. What? Seamus used the explosion charm to send George, Fred, Hermione, and himself all to the school hospital. I was only gone for a short while. What's going on? Page 34. Chapter 39. The Accident-Prone Potions Class. Is this the important point? McGonagall rubbed her temples, her head aching, and said sternly, Where did you learn that? Never mind. You're not allowed to teach such dangerous spells to other people in the future. Considering Wit's magical talent, McGonagall immediately abandoned her suggestion to let Wit take it easy and instead warned him. Not every student has such strong magical control. The more powerful the spell, the more troublesome the consequences of losing control. After being lectured by McGonagall for half an hour, Wit left the office with his head tucked in like a quail. What's going on with that guy, Simo? Having been scolded for no reason, Wit decided to go to the school hospital to find out what was going on. Hogwarts Hospital. It took Wit a lot of effort to convince Mrs. Pomfrey to allow him to come in for a visit. As soon as he entered, he saw Seamus sitting awkwardly on the hospital bed. Hermione's hair had been cut short, and George and Fred were missing their left and right eyebrows, respectively. They were laughing heartily and criticizing each other. Judging from their spirits, the four of them should not have been injured. What happened? Wit walked over and asked Seamus. Ask them. When Seamus saw Wit approaching, he straightened his back and began to pour out his grievances. After the explanation, Wit roughly understood what had happened. So you blew them up. I do not have. Seamus explained, I just wanted to scare them. The spell was aimed at the ground, but somehow it went out of control. Nonsense, Wit retorted. With such a sudden surge of anger and emotional outburst, it's no wonder your spell went out of control. How I taught you. You can't learn a spell once and then use it successfully. You have to practice, and you can't use it in front of people until you have mastered it completely. I said so much, but I didn't take it to heart at all. Fortunately, the damage was minor. Never release it in front of others again, understand? Simo pouted in frustration, and it took him a while to catch his breath before he nodded gently. Having confirmed that Seamus had truly listened, Wit turned his gaze to Hermione. It's all his fault, Wit said, walking to Hermione's bedside with a heavy heart. You don't actually believe there's some kind of magical purification technique, do you? Wit knew that Hermione, a first-year student, was a bit stubborn, but she didn't expect her to be this stubborn. She actually believed her. You can't fool me, Hermione said stubbornly. George and Fred both said. Stop, stop, stop. Wit interrupted Hermione, speechless. You actually believe what those two idiots say. If you're going to believe them, you might as well believe I'm Merlin. Even if Ron is too young to know this, you can always ask Percy. As a prefect, he can't possibly lie to you. So you all conspired to lie to me. Hermione realized what was happening. Her voice suddenly rose 8 octaves, and her face turned bright red with anger. I did not join forces. Just as Wit was about to explain, Mrs. Pomfrey, who had heard the noise, rushed over. Get out. I warned you not to disturb the patient's rest. WITTE Japanese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter, Japanese letter. He obediently raised his hand and left the school hospital. It's really hard to be a good person. I should have just left it at Hermione. After all, once Hermione has read more books and learned more about the wizarding world, she'll naturally find out. There are no tricks to increasing magic power. If such a thing truly existed, pure-blood wizards would have already ruled the magical world. Why would they need to accompany Voldemort and engage in rebellion, a task that could easily lead to sleeping with Dementors? But now it's finally been explained clearly. Hopefully, this annoying know-it-all will stop thinking about him. Back in his dorm, Wit continued to carefully craft his letter to Slughorn, word by word. This was the real Angel, and he had to put in a lot of effort to win him over. A new week begins, potions class. Snape walked in with his textbook and said directly, Now, close all the textbooks and take out your notes. Snape quickly wrote on the blackboard, How to make hair-raising potion. Professor, Hermione called out, raising her hand, this is a second-year lesson. Shut up, Snape snapped. Potential's class doesn't need a noisy bird to tell the time. Gryffindor will lose 1 point for disrupting the professor's lecture. Hermione sat back down angrily, looking at Snape with extreme disgust. She was simply asking a normal question. If it were any other professor, they would have at least given an explanation. Only Snape offered no explanation, deducting points without hesitation. How could there be such a terrible professor in the magical world? The course continues. Making hair-raising tonic is not difficult, but for first graders who don't even recognize all the herbs and have to look them up in books, it becomes a very difficult task. Because it's really hard for you to tell which plants those identical tubers come from. This is even more difficult than distinguishing between ginger and potatoes. As a result, many students had to spend a lot of time searching through books, and then the potions in their cauldrons would overcook. The entire classroom turned into a disaster site. Fortunately, even if the hair-raising potion fails to be brewed, it won't cause any particularly serious consequences. Despite the constant screams in the classroom, no major accidents requiring medical attention at the school clinic occurred. Snape, however, remained completely oblivious to all of this. He went straight up to Wit and openly showed his favoritism. Clear, bright, and a near-perfect hairspray, Slytherin +5. After adding the points, Snape skipped over Wit and went to check on the other students. Soon, Snape's harsh roar echoed in the classroom. Except for Draco, almost every student was scolded by him. And an additional 2 points were deducted from Gryffindor. With the potion successfully brewed, Victor, bored out of his mind, secretly observed the other students in the classroom during his spare time. He suddenly understood why Snape had chosen the second-year hair-raising potion instead of the first-year forgetfulness potion. Speeding up the potions class sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult. The potions in the cauldron are no pushovers. They'll explode if you make a mistake. The stronger the agent, the larger the spray. The explosion was accompanied by a toxic attack. The consequences of a failed potion are usually related to the potion's function. If the hair-standing potion fails, the student's hair will simply turn into various strange and twisted shapes. If the forgetfulness potion fails, the student may forget everything they have learned that week. This means that the other professor's teaching this week was for nothing. If Snape were to do that, he would be condemned by the other professors. Wit suddenly realized that he seemed to have made a very difficult request of Professor Snape. Brewing high-level potions was like assembling a bomb. The difficulty lies not in whether he can keep up with the course, but in how to prevent a group of novices, who are bound to make mistakes, from exploding while assembling the bomb. Just thinking about the trouble involved gave Wit a headache. His relationship with Snape was definitely not that close. The reason Snape was willing to do this was most likely because he disliked Dumbledore and Harry Potter. Also, Slytherin's 7-game winning streak in the House Cup. After paying such a high price, what if Slytherin ultimately fails to win the House Cup? This is far more serious than the accidental kick Snape received upon entering university. Snape would probably want to kill him then. Wit suddenly felt immense pressure. Chapter 40, Bald Harry on Halloween. Another bottle of magic stone powder. After potions class ended, Wit successfully earned another 20 credits and obtained a new treasure chest. He casually poured all the powder into the serpent demon's mouth, and the green in Victor's eyes deepened even further. The surging magical power within him increased significantly once again. It's a pity I didn't manage to draw any rare magical items, Wit thought greedily. Wait. Page 35. Since the Quidditch incident, Draco has rarely sought out Wit, because he has found Wit to be very busy every day, writing letters, brewing medicine, attending classes, and practicing Quidditch. Because of Vita's hard work and ambition, Draco always felt a strange sense of guilt when he was with him, which made him very uncomfortable. This time, however, he genuinely had something to discuss with Victor. "I just heard about it." Draco looked around and whispered, "You instigated Seamus to use the explosion charm to send those two Weasleys bastards and that annoying know-it-all to the hospital. Well done. That's what Slytherin should do." Wit just stared calmly at Draco, putting aside the fact that he didn't instigate this at all, and considering how much time has passed since then, Draco's coming to say this now clearly indicates that he has other motives. As expected, when he saw that Wit remained silent, Draco immediately changed his tune. "I just want to ask if you have any other powerful spells here." Potter and his henchman Weasley went too far, actually mocking me, saying that the brooms I've played with since I was a kid are all junk brooms and can't compare to Nimbus 2000 at all. Draco, his face flushed, said, "This time I'm going to teach them a lesson they won't forget. We need to get our revenge hard." Wit, this doesn't sound like something Harry would say. Harry hates people who like to show off their skills, so how could he possibly flaunt his Nimbus 2000 in front of Draco? Wit figured Draco was adding another layer of drama to his story. Harry clearly didn't mean it that way, but he insisted on interpreting it that way, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. "Why don't you ask Mr. Lucius to buy you one?" Wit suggested. 2,000 for a Nimbus shouldn't be too expensive for you." "I wrote to my dad," Draco said, sounding aggrieved. "Dad said I shouldn't have given up last time. I'm not a Quidditch player, and I'm not allowed to bring a broom to school according to the rules." Forehead. Sweat began to bead on Wit's forehead. How did this all end up on his head again? It was really giving him a headache. Forget it, I'll just teach him a little curse and send him away. Harry really went too far. "Here, that's what we'll do," Wit said, changing his tune. "I'll teach you a secret spell that most students don't know. The curse for failed baldness treatment. The incantation is for hair to grow quickly." Upon hearing Wit's words, Draco displayed the same puzzled expression as Seamus. What kind of strange spell is this that can make Harry's hair grow like crazy? "No," Wit explained. "This spell is a powerful curse that can make Harry's hair grow legs and run away, thus turning him bald. As long as the spell is successfully cast, it can last for 3 years. How about that? Amazing, right?" "Harry's gone bald." Draco's attention was instantly drawn to Wit's words. If Harry didn't have hair, then the ugly scar on his forehead would no longer be visible. Draco grinned smugly. "Great Wit, I want to learn this spell." 2 hours later, Draco, having successfully turned a poor yellow mouse into a bald man, left satisfied. The spell's effectiveness was highly praised. That bald medieval wizard would surely be very pleased if he knew that his spells would receive such high praise. As for whether it would cause some students to go bald after 3 years, Wit thought that Mrs. Pomfrey, having served as the school doctor for so many years, must know the reverse of the spell, so there was no need to worry about such a small problem. As time passed, Wit noticed that Draco seemed rather unskilled at using spells, and Harry and Ron's hair remained perfectly intact on their heads. Gradually, he stopped paying attention to it. As the weather gets colder and Halloween approaches, Quirrell's headscarf gets thicker and thicker. Just when Wit had completely forgotten about what happened, Harry appeared in the classroom wearing the same turban as Quirrell. Ron was also perfectly in sync with him. After a long period of arduous practice, Draco finally mastered his skills, and this morning found an opportunity to successfully ambush and hit Harry. It turned him into a bald man. "Damn it!" Ron chewed on his chicken leg angrily and said irritably, "Where did Draco learn that spell? Even Madame Pomfrey doesn't know how to cure it." Are we supposed to go bald and wear headscarves like Professor Quirrell to class? No. Ron's wailing was so exaggerated that his headscarf slipped off, revealing a shiny bald head. In an instant, all the students in the school were drawn to it. This was immediately followed by a burst of laughter. Harry tightened his clothes and carefully held onto his headscarf to keep it from falling off. Although he and Ron were good brothers, they should have gone through thick and thin together. But Harry couldn't accept this kind of shared hardship. I'm sorry, Ron. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that I'm powerless to do so. Harry quietly moved further away, afraid that others would discover he was also bald. After a long while, everyone's laughter subsided, and Ron wrapped his scarf around his head again to cover his bald head, sullenly eating his chicken leg. What happened? Hermione asked, always eager to meddle. Ron kept his head down and didn't say anything, but Harry felt that Hermione might have a way to solve their problem. It's Draco, Harry whispered. Draco learned some powerful spell somewhere, and he turned us both bald. He's even planning to attack other people. You too, Hermione drew out the last word, making Harry instantly realize he had said the wrong thing. But since things had come to this point, Harry had no choice but to admit it. Okay, it's the two of us. What is the spell? Hermione pondered. I feel like I've seen this kind of magic that makes people bald somewhere before. The spell is for your hair to grow faster. Do you know how to break this spell? I vaguely remember, Hermione said softly. I think I saw it in that book in the library. Then let's go to the library now. Harry stood up eagerly. But I haven't eaten yet. There's no time to eat now. Ron stood up and together with Harry pulled Hermione away, one on each side. Eating. What to eat? He can't even eat his favorite chicken leg until he solves his baldness problem. Not long after Harry and Hermione left, Quirrell suddenly ran in, yelling that there was a giant monster, and then collapsed in the Great Hall. Chapter 41. A Life with Clear-Cut Divides. Wit, who witnessed the farce firsthand, had no intention of doing anything. Harry the Savior has protective magic, Dumbledore, Snape, and a whole bunch of people standing behind him. They didn't need his help at all. Rather than worrying about Harry, Wit was more concerned about whether the extraction of the Firefox egg and the venom of the octopod would fail tonight. Slughorn truly lives up to his Slytherin name. After discovering that Wit was indeed capable of helping during several training sessions, Slughorn, almost without hesitation, placed even greater tasks on him. In exchange for their own ease, the fusion and extraction of the fire-grey snake egg and the venom of the eight-eyed giant spider is as difficult as having Harry participate in a professional Quidditch match. Despite both Wit and the Serpent Demon keeping a close watch, they still failed several times. With each failure, Wit could hear the clinking of galleons. He paid for all of these materials. If he fails again tonight, Wit will probably have no choice but to write to Slughorn, admit his shortcomings, and abandon the mission. This would undoubtedly damage Wit's perfect image in Slughorn's eyes, but if he didn't do it, Wit's wallet simply couldn't take it. He spent almost all the money he made selling forgetfulness potions these past few days, but it still isn't enough. These are the last 2 sets of materials tonight. They must be approved. Wit clenched his fists and gave himself a strong pep talk. Because of the trolls, all students were confined to their dormitories and were not allowed to go out. Victor, of course, couldn't go to his little corner room in the castle where he used to brew potions. Hogwarts Castle is really huge. It's already very magnificent just from the outside, and it's also covered with a lot of unseen expansion charms inside. You'll never know just how big a small room in the corner might actually be when you open it up. Many students can find their own little corner at Hogwarts. With the help of the Serpent demon, Wit found a secluded little room at Hogwarts, where he usually went to brew potions and practice magic. But I can't go today. But Felix Ferulic can't be delayed. Tomorrow is the final reply date. Whether he succeeds or fails, he needs to give Slughorn an answer so that Slughorn can prepare. Tonight is the final deadline. After wandering around, Wit couldn't find a quiet and peaceful place. There were people everywhere, and even two of his roommates were playing chess in the dormitory. It's really not suitable for making medicine. Just as he was fretting, Wit suddenly spotted Lawrence. Page 36. He remembered that the other person had a key to the Slytherin headmaster's lounge, which was located below the common lounge. Originally intended as a place for the dean to relax, Snape didn't need it, so he converted the room into a teaching room for his potions club. That place is perfect for making medicine. Lawrence. Wit walked over quickly and said politely, "I hope I haven't bothered you. I need your help with something." "I think you've come at just the right time," Lawrence said with a smile to the person opposite him. "Excuse me, Avery. Let's postpone our match for another time." "You were about to lose," Avery complained, sounding annoyed. "The game isn't over yet, and it's still uncertain who will win and who will lose." Lawrence spoke defiantly as he quickly pulled Victor away. "You've come at just the right time, Wit. If you include the game we just played, I've lost to him 7 times in a row. If it weren't for the family business, I really wouldn't want to play chess with him." Lawrence said somewhat irritably, "He always manages to kill me to pieces, and he never even lets me have a turn. His sportsmanship is also bad. If he loses, he keeps dragging the other player along and won't let them leave. No wonder nobody wants to play chess with him. Things always have their good and bad sides," Wit comforted her. "At least your family has secured a steady stream of orders, which is a good thing." Lawrence only complained a little and didn't really take it to heart. The chess game with Avery was something he initiated. Avery didn't specifically come to him. As a shrewd businessman, Lawrence has always had a unique vision. Even while in school, he was already busy running around for his family business. This deal with Avery was the most profitable one he had ever made. He received high praise from his father. "You're right." Lawrence agreed. "That's certainly a good deal. So what brings you here?" "I would like to use Professor Snape's lounge to concoct the Felix Felicis that Professor Slughorn has assigned me." "I know you have the key." Felix Felicis. Lawrence became interested and asked curiously, "What exactly is it?" "A fusion extraction of fire ash, snake eggs, and octopus venom." "Fire ash, snake eggs, and octopus spider venom." Lawrence looked at Wit in shock and whispered, "This is no ordinary difficulty. Even my father failed during the extraction." "Did you succeed?" "Not yet," Wit joked. "If I succeed, Professor Snape might just give me an extra 20 points. It's definitely worth it." Lawrence led Wit to the headmaster's room in Slytherin, opened the door, and asked softly, "I'm also very curious about how Felix Felicis is made. Would you mind if I took a look?" "Of course I don't mind," Wit said very politely. "It would be great if you could point out my mistakes. To be honest, I've been quite stressed out by this matter lately. If I fail again today, I'm afraid I'll have to spend the whole night thinking about how to write an apology letter to Professor Slughorn. The magical properties of the fire ash snake egg are violent and flammable, while the venom of the eight-eyed giant spider is extremely potent. When the two meet in the crucible, it is like a battle between heavenly thunder and earthly fire. The magical reaction was so intense that most wizards could only look on in awe. It's impossible to insert your hand into it. Fortunately, the serpent demon's magic was extremely powerful, and its control was exquisite enough. In the fierce battle between the two potions, Wit was barely able to intervene and make minor adjustments to the reaction. But that's all. Half an hour later, the crucible exploded again with a bang. The gold jingle tumbled and slipped out of Wit's pocket. Where exactly did the problem go wrong? Wit flipped through the potion book in frustration. He had made sure he was on the right track every step of the way, so why did it explode again? "Why don't you try my method?" Lawrence whispered a suggestion from the side. "Add some unicorn hair as a neutralizer before fusion extraction." Unicorn hairs. Wit turned his head in confusion. The book didn't seem to say that this could be done. He wasn't one to stick to his principles, but now that Wit had only one document left, he had to make a careful choice. "This was discovered by my father on an old, reclusive wizard in Europe. Unicorns can reconcile the conflicts of many magical creatures, so his fur also has the same reconciling effect. When the old wizard brewed potions with strong conflict, he liked to add some unicorn hair as a mildener. The formula for the medicine has been modified, but it's still the formula for folic acid. It sounds completely unreliable. But Wit decided to give it a try anyway. He knew very well that with his current abilities, continuing to follow the instructions in the book would have a very slim chance of success. Why not listen to Lawrence and take a gamble? If it succeeds, Wit will send the extract over and write down the entire process in detail, so that Slughorn can judge whether it can be used. If you fail, it's even simpler. Just write an apology letter. How much is appropriate to add? 2 grams, Lawrence said uncertainly. I've seen my father add 2 grams when he makes potions. With some skepticism, Wit added 2 grams of unicorn hair fragments and restarted the extraction process. Surprisingly, the conflict between the fire ash, snake eggs, and the venom of the A-tide giant spider in the crucible actually eased up a lot. An hour later, a bottle of pale golden solution was successfully extracted. Both the color and the effect are exactly the same as described in the book. What even a potions master like Slughorn didn't know was discovered by an unknown old wizard. The magical world is truly vast. Dumbledore, Grindelwald, and Voldemort, 3 of the most powerful wizards of this century, all had experience traveling the world. This is definitely not a coincidence. Being confined to one place, even if it's Hogwarts, can still lead to a certain degree of stagnation. Looking at the potion in his hand, Wit made up his mind that in a few years he would also go out and see what the magical world outside of Hogwarts was like. "Thank you for reminding me," Wit said sincerely to Lawrence. "Without you, I would have certainly failed." "You're welcome," Lawrence said with fervent eyes. "Your potion-making skills are simply art. If it were me, even with the help of unicorn hair, I could not have extracted such a beautiful solution. You will definitely become a great person in the future." The longer Lawrence spent with Wit, the more convinced he became that Wit would become a leading figure in the future magical world. This relationship needs to be carefully maintained. "Wit," Lawrence said in a low voice, "Quidditch is about to start, and I heard you don't have a proper broom yet. How about I go and borrow a nimbus for you for 2,000? With this, you'll definitely dominate the field and crush Gryffindor." "No, thank you." Wit carefully put away the extracted solution and smiled. "I have a better option, the Nimbus 2000. Although the Felix Felicis elixir wasn't finished yet and the money hadn't arrived, borrowing the broom for a while wouldn't be a problem, given Slughorn's connections. To put it bluntly, the other party believed that there was almost no chance that Slughorn would fail in brewing Felix Felicis, and they were not worried that he would renege on his debt. Therefore, they were happy to give Slughorn face. The goods were sent to Wit ahead of schedule. This is the effect of reputation. A better choice Lawrence asked doubtfully. Is there any broom more eye-catching than Nimbus 2000? Of course, you'll see it in a couple of days. Then I'll wait and see. Inside the Potions Club, Victor felt relaxed and at ease. Things weren't so good for Harry. Ron, why is this troll chasing us? We haven't offended him, have we? Harry asked, slightly out of breath. How should I know? Ron was in an equally bad mood. Headbands, your headbands, Hermione warned urgently. The trolls are staring at your headbands. Throw them off right now. No. Harry and Ron both refused Hermione's request. Throwing off the headscarf would be tantamount to exposing his bald head to Hermione, and perhaps other students and professors who would arrive later. That would be too embarrassing. Harry would rather be hit by a troll than lose his headscarf. Just as Harry firmly refused. Hermione cried out in alarm. The stairs have turned, Harry. There's no way forward. What? Harry looked up at the empty staircase and the impossibly high ground. If he fell down there, he would surely die a horrible death. Why did Hogwarts design such complicated staircases? Couldn't they just stay in one place? Harry couldn't stop complaining in his mind. Take off your headscarves, Harry. As the troll drew ever closer, Harry suddenly realized that the hood wasn't such an important thing. Survival was the real priority. Harry didn't hesitate to rip off his headscarf, revealing a bald head. Page 37. Ron, give me your headscarf. Let's rush over and entangle him. Hermione, you need to figure out a way to turn the stairs back around as quickly as possible. In that life-or-death moment, Harry suddenly felt his mind become incredibly sharp and calm. On the contrary, Hermione became increasingly anxious in the face of this unexpected situation. Magic, magic. What kind of magic can solve the current problem? Hermione was in a panic, but having only been enrolled for less than half a year, she didn't have that much knowledge to draw upon. Asking Hermione to create her own magic is clearly asking too much of her. Meanwhile, Harry and Ron have already confronted the troll. They threw their headscarves at the troll, covering his eyes, and narrowly escaped the troll's wildly swinging club, fleeing behind him. Ron had barely caught his breath when he heard Harry's exclamation. Hermione is still there. Hermione was staring intently at the stairs, completely unaware that the blindfolded giant waving a wooden club was getting closer and closer behind her. Behind me, Hermione, behind me, Harry shouted anxiously and rushed over. Ignoring the danger, they jumped onto the troll's back, grabbed the wrinkled skin and climbed up, trying to tear off the turban covering the troll's eyes. The troll continued to swing his club wildly, nearly hitting Harry several times. This can't go on any longer. Ron raised his wand, and for some reason, his memories suddenly became incredibly clear. Yuga Dimma Leviosa. The levitation charm struck the troll's club precisely, but Ron's strength alone was insufficient. The giant still gripped the wooden stick tightly, but its swinging motions slowed down somewhat. It works, Ron was overjoyed and shouted. Hermione used the levitation charm. I know. Hermione calmed down and waved her wand. Yuga Dimma Leviosa. The second levitation spell hit its target, and with Hermione and Ron working together, they successfully snatched the stick from the troll's hands. Harry then pulled off the hood, covering the troll's head, and jumped off the troll. The giant, whose sight had been restored, stared at his right hand with his small eyes in confusion, waving it twice in the air as if thinking, "Where's my stick? Where's my stick? I just had it in my hand." "Look up there, big guy," Ron shouted. The giant raised his head in confusion, and a dark shadow rapidly expanded before his eyes. A loud thud, a pleasant sound, is a good start. The giant was struck by his own club and collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Just after everything was finished, the staircase returned, bringing with it 3 professors: Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape. The 3 first looked at the giant, then their gaze was drawn to 2 shiny heads. "What kind of tricks are you playing?" McGonagall's eyes were cold and angry. "Why don't you just stay in your dorms? Do you know how dangerous this is?" Harry's excitement at defeating the troll vanished instantly. He secretly pulled up his wizard robes, covered his bald head with his hat, and lowered his head, not daring to speak. "Professor, that's not how it is." Hermione stepped forward and explained, "Harry and the others have lost all their hair due to a curse, and I saw this kind of spell in the library, which is why I brought them out specifically." "Professor McGonagall, we never expected to encounter a troll." Even though she was carried out by Harry and the others, Hermione took all the blame upon herself. The sound of Harry and Ron bravely charging at the troll was still so vivid in Hermione's mind. Although he is bold. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that Hermione felt something she had never felt before in Ron and Harry. Perhaps this is what friendship is. Facing disasters together is always the best way to strengthen friendships. "Even so, you shouldn't have done that." Professor McGonagall's tone softened noticeably. "All right, you pass. Although it was an accident, you still managed to take down an adult troll and eliminate a risk for Hogwarts. Gryffindor gets 10 points, and each person gets 10 points. Go back quickly." Chapter 42, New Plans. On November 1st, Halloween, a light snow fell from the sky, and Hogwarts, draped in silver, lost some of its mystery and gained more childlike innocence. In such cold weather, apart from a few students having a snowball fight, most people huddled around the fireplace in the common room to keep warm. Wit was naturally included as well. Although you can make a fire in the dormitory, it's just too boring. Having finally completed Slughorn's test, Wit decided to reward himself with a day off. The peace was short-lived, as Wit heard the Slytherin prefect roar in anger. "Whoever is playing with high-quality stones in the common room, I have warned you, I will confiscate all of their stones." As is well known, Gobstone sprays foul water at losers, and Slytherin's common room is underground, by the Black Lake. The ventilation system was the worst among all the colleges. Whenever someone plays Gabushi in the common room, the stench instantly spreads throughout the entire common room. It takes several spells to get rid of the stench. Therefore, playing with gobblestones is strictly prohibited in the Slytherin common room. But rules are rules, and there are always people who don't like to follow them and secretly play Gabushi in the common lounge. At this point, the prefect will step in, and a chaotic chase will begin. Sure enough, even Slytherin were still a group of teenagers, and they were simply incapable of staying quiet. "Wit, there's a letter for you, and a huge package outside. Those owls won't let anyone else claim it. They insist you sign for it yourself." Draco covered the red mark on his hand and asked in a low voice, "What's in there?" "It's not a broom, is it?" "You guessed right." Wit made no attempt to hide anything and said directly, "Firebolt, the best and fastest broom in the magic world today, handcrafted, with fairy silver inlaid at the end of the broom. The Firebolt is perfectly suited to any weather conditions." Draco grew increasingly eager to see what the broom that Wit had touted so highly looked like. Seeing that Draco's interest had been piqued, Wit promptly invited him to join him in receiving the package. After this year, once he gets the golden achievement, he plans to quit Quidditch. Quidditch training is too much of a waste of time and doesn't earn many points, so it's not worth it. Since Quidditch is no longer being played, there's naturally no need for a broom as good as a Firebolt. Wit plans to resell the broom to Draco. It's an important broom that helped Slytherin achieve 7 consecutive championships, so selling it for the original price isn't unreasonable. After selling the firebolts, return the money to Professor Slughorn. Perfect. If Slughorn doesn't want him to sell the firebolts, Wit can stay. In any case, let's lay the groundwork for Draco first, just in case. As he stepped out of his Gryffindor dormitory, Wit immediately spotted the enormous package that had been delivered by 8 owls. After paying the shipping fee and signing for the package, Wit first picked up Slughorn's letter. Draco, meanwhile, was excitedly unpacking the package. Slughorn's first sentence in the letter was a praise of Wit, saying that the extract was absolutely perfect. There are no flaws whatsoever. Slughorn was pleased that Wit was willing to try some different recipes, instead of rigidly adhering to dogma. Sticking to books might make you a decent potion maker, but it's unlikely you'll become a true master. The unicorn hair incident gave him a great deal of inspiration. The formulation of Felix Felicis might become simpler. The rest can be left to him. Slughorn has discovered the limits of what Wit can do at this stage. The rest is beyond Wit's control. At the end of the letter, Slughorn also told Wit that the firebolts would be sent along with the envelope and would not need to be returned. With Wit's bottle of extract, he could successfully brew Felix Felicis. Wit told Slughorn to just take it with a grain of salt and not to take it too seriously. Having failed so many times just to extract a single solution, Wit really didn't think he could help Slughorn. The emotional value that these tasks he completed provided to Slughorn far outweighed any practical help. "It's so beautiful, Wit." Draco opened the package and stared at the firebolts that looked like works of art. "How did you get him? Can I ride him? I can't believe there's such a perfect broom in the world. It's so beautiful." "Let's wait a while." Wit waved his wand to reseal the broom and said softly, "This is a secret weapon against Gryffindor. If you ride it around in the sky now, everyone at Hogwarts will know about this broom." Page 38. They will definitely take special precautions. "The game is over," Wit promised. "I'll lend you this broom to ride when the game is over." Before the match, Wit was still useful as a broom, but after the match, Draco could do whatever he wanted with him. It doesn't matter if it gets broken, as long as you pay for it. Competition, breaking records. The mere thought of Harry Potter instantly suppressed Draco's restless desires. In terms of feelings, Draco's relationship with Potter is truly unique. You know, Harry isn't some muggle wizard, and he rarely bothers Draco. I just don't understand why Draco is always thinking about Harry. Despite his doubts, Victor wouldn't allow himself to interfere in their affairs. Instead of wasting time on this, you might as well teach James to brew more potions. Just as the killing of the 8-eyed giant spider by the serpent demon would be attributed to Wit, the potion brewed by James would be equivalent to Wit personally brewing it. If he could draw more character cards, Wit could stay at home and have those cute little animals work for him. Unfortunately, he has too few people under his command now. The serpent demon needs to attend classes with him to double his learning efficiency, while Hagrid has to stay home to help his grandfather, leaving only James as someone he can command. The problem is that James doesn't even have hands. He's using his mouth to hold a stick while brewing the medicine, which is incredibly inefficient. It seems we still have to persuade James to learn animagus. Human-shaped deer are much more efficient at work than deer-shaped deer. I should have known better than to criticize him. Wit couldn't help but regret his earlier criticism of James. Why did you have to be so rude? If he wants to learn, let him learn. Once I learn it, I can work for him. Despite his regret, there were some things Wit had to say. He couldn't bring himself to do something so inhuman as to use other people's feelings as bait. Chapter 43. He's just unlucky. On the Black Lake outside Hogwarts Castle. Black Lake in November was already frozen solid, so solid that Hagrid could step on it without any problem. Such a vast and flat ice surface naturally became a place for many students to play. Qiu Zhang was wearing a blue fleece jacket, red gloves, and warm fire dragon leather boots today. The powerful magic of the fire dragon skin allowed Qiu Zhang to remain warm even when standing on ice for extended periods, making it more effective than any spell. In contrast, its price is chilling. Anyway, Wit wouldn't be willing to buy such expensive shoes. Watching James having a great time playing with Cho Chang on the Black Lake, Wit thought for a moment and decided to be more straightforward, since he would have to tell him sooner or later anyway. Previously, he needed James to practice his Quidditch skills, so he didn't disturb James and Cho Chang's business. But now, with the Firebolt buff, Wit's Quidditch match can be said to be a sure thing. James' good days are over. Why did you have to come out at such an inopportune time? We're in the early stages of starting a business. If you're not working hard and tired, where am I going to get my blue treasure chest? It couldn't possibly fall from the sky, could it? So far, Wit knows that Cho Chang has been playing with James, and Cho Chang also knows that James is the magical creature he keeps, but the two have never met. This is our first meeting. James, come back. Wit stood on the ice, trying to steady himself. His shoes were no good. They weren't slip-resistant at all. So after going only a short distance, Wit had to stop and call out to James. Originally, Cho Chang was being pulled along by James to skate when he heard Wit's shout, so he immediately grabbed Cho Chang and ran over. Seeing that Cho Chang had been sliding on the ice for a while before finally regaining his balance, Wit reached out and patted James on the head, apologizing. Sorry, this guy's personality is just a bit reckless. It's okay. Qiu Zhang looked up at Wit and smiled. I still really like his personality. Wit said in a low voice. I came here today to talk to you about something about James. I have some things I need him to do next, so he probably won't have much time to go out and have fun. Yo-yo. James seemed even more anxious than Cho Chang, because Wit wouldn't let him speak, so he could only make deer-like noises in frustration and even ran over to nudge Wit's thigh. Don't get so agitated. Victor was already unsteady on the ice, and with James's push, he slid around in a huge circle before finally stopping. Seeing this, Qiu Zhang covered his mouth with his hand and quietly let out a chuckle. Wit, who had just slumped on his backside, grabbed James by the neck and held him tightly, threatening, all you do is play around all day. It's been so long. Believe me or not, I'll shave all your hair off and make you a naked deer. Upon hearing Wit's words, James, who had been struggling, stared wide-eyed in horror. Master, it's winter now. You wouldn't be so cruel, would you? You can try your luck, Wit said, making a scissor shape with 2 fingers and a wicked smile playing on his lips. James completely collapsed. That's more like it. Wit put James down and struggled to stand up from the ice. He dares to challenge me. He's really gone too far. At this moment, Cho Chang also picked up a golden snitch and walked over, reached out and patted James's head, then handed the golden snitch to James and said softly, Go back with your master. You can come and play with me anytime you have time. Cho Chang has a gentle personality and doesn't want to see James and Wit argue, but this statement also shows that her attitude towards James is that of an animal playmate. There were no other feelings involved. Whether James noticed it or not is unknown, but Wit certainly saw it clearly. Gone. Wit grabbed James's newly grown horn and pulled it back forcefully. Come back with me to grow vegetables. Inside the glass greenhouse, where herbs are cultivated at Hogwarts, Wit led James to Professor Sprout's door and politely knocked. Professor, I've come to collect the Dictamnus dasycarpus seeds that we agreed on before. White sage is one of the most widely used magical plants in the magical world. Through generations of selection and breeding by wizards, today's white sage grows quickly, is easy to grow, has a wide range of uses, and is highly safe. It can be said to be the most suitable magical plant for beginners to cultivate. Compared to seeds bought from outside, the white sage seeds cultivated by Professor Sprout are not only of better quality, but also free. Whit mentioned it briefly in class, and Sprout enthusiastically offered to provide him with the best and finest white sage seeds. She recently acquired a new batch of dragon manure, which can be used to cultivate excellent Dictamnus dasycarpus seeds. In addition to the nutrients that plants need, a magical environment with abundant magical energy will also affect the growth of magical plants. Seeds of Dictamnus dasycarpus grown in the magical and nutrient-rich fertilizer of dragon dung will have a higher survival rate and a better harvest than those grown in ordinary soil. Good students always receive more preferential treatment, and this is no exception at Hogwarts. "Come in, child," Sprout said, opening the door and warmly inviting Whit inside. "This batch of Dictamnus dasycarpus seeds is absolutely the best." Sprout pointed to a plant in the greenhouse that was 30% taller than a normal white sage and said, "Few Slytherin students are willing to work with these plants anymore. I'm glad you've discovered their beauty. Do you want to take a batch of specially made dragon dung fertilizer with you? With this, your Dictamnus dasycarpus will grow better. If it is for pharmaceutical purposes, it is best to harvest it when it is in bloom." "Thank you so much." Whit shook his head and said, "No need for dragon manure, it's too expensive. Let's save it for the white daffodils that the school hospital needs. I just want to experience the fun of planting." "Don't worry, the school hospital is enough." Sprout grabbed a large bag of fertilizer and stuffed it into Whit's hand, just like a relative giving you a red envelope during Chinese New Year. Whit simply couldn't refuse. They chatted about various interesting anecdotes about magical plants, and before leaving, Sprout gave Whit 3 bottles of specially made insect repellent. It is said that when the leaves of Dictamnus dasycarpus turn yellow over a large area, it can effectively solve various diseases and pests. Although the magical plants in the wizarding world are incredibly powerful, they are still susceptible to pests and diseases. Perhaps the insects and bacteria that cause them to get sick are also magical creatures. After saying goodbye to Professor Sprout, Whit carried the fertilizer to the secret room on the 3rd floor, where the Serpent demon had already cleaned up the entire room with magic. 3 rows of wooden flower beds were neatly arranged on the ground, with various planting tools nearby. "Listen up, James." Whit put down the fertilizer and said in a low voice, "From today onwards, you will be responsible for planting white Scutularia here and brewing your specialty hair growth tonic. This is the schedule." Whit took out a schedule that was packed full of photos, a total of 14 hours long, and placed it in front of James. "James, are you treating me like a black slave, making me work 14 hours a day, all year round?" "I won't do it," James said, turning his head away. 8 hours at most." "Sigh," Whit sighed. "I'm not doing this for myself. I already consulted Professor McGonagall, and the animagus non-human creatures at Hogwarts cannot be used." Page 39. If you want to learn animagus, you'll have to wait until I open the animagus magic memory bottle from the Pig Academy in the treasure chest. That's a gold quality magic. The drop rate is ridiculously low. If you don't work hard, at my current rate of acquiring treasure chests, it will probably take me more than 20 years to draw this magic. By then, Qiu Zhang's child will be about the age to start school. But I don't care. It's up to you how you think about it. To be honest, Whit said in a low voice, I really think that even if you learn Animagus, the chances of you and Cho Chang getting together are slim. Maybe you should just give up. I'll adjust your schedule. 8 hours is too long. How about 6 hours? 6 hours a day. And once I extract the magic memory bottle and add the time you spend learning magic, it will be just in time for Q Zhang's wedding. Maybe we can even attend her wedding. It can be considered a dream come true. Wit's tone was so sincere that James was furious. 6 hours. Who do you think you are? 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day. Fill my schedule right now. I'm sure I can get Animagus magic before Cho Chang graduates. Let's get this straight, James said with the last shred of his sanity. I'll only go as far as I pull out the Animagus. Don't worry, Wit agreed readily. As long as I draw Animagus, this schedule will be immediately invalidated. Not only that, I'll also give you a year off. After that, your working hours will not exceed 6 hours a day. I guarantee you ample benefits. Wit, the designer of the Pig Academy, knew all too well the odds of getting lucky with the gacha pulls. Once the golden Animagus is drawn, Wit's crew will have at least 10 character cards, so there will be no need to keep chasing after James. After all, Wit wasn't some kind of devil. He wouldn't use his subordinates to the point of exhaustion. You mean James? James' timing was too unfortunate. He couldn't match Serpent Demon's talent, nor could he match Hagrid's strength. He can't defend the home base and can't be the main card holder, so he's just unlucky. Chapter 44, Quidditch Match. After Halloween, the weather grew colder and colder, and Snape's temper became increasingly irritable. Perhaps because of his injured leg, even Victor now dares not look Snape in the eye. Fortunately, the Quidditch match was about to begin, and Hogwarts cancelled today's classes, so students didn't have to attend potions class. Wit dressed and walked onto the field with a fire crossbow in his hand. Not to mention the students, even Mrs. Hooch, who was a Quidditch referee, couldn't help but take a few more glances at the firebolt. It's that broom, Harry, George whispered. Wit raves about it, claiming it can dominate the game. Fred and I will keep a close eye on him and restrict his movements. We probably won't have the energy to keep an eye on you then. Harry, you'll have to face the attack of 2 of their batters by yourself. Although the exact specifications of the firebolt are unknown, the information available is enough to make the Gryffindor team consider Wit a core threat. Normally, a batter should have both offensive and defensive responsibilities, protecting the seeker and all players, but Wood told George and Fred to only focus on Wit. Quidditch is ultimately a sport for 7 people, and Wood believes that no matter how strong an individual's ability is, if they are targeted, they can definitely be limited. But Wood will soon retract his words. Please hop on your flying brooms. Mrs. Hooch blew her silver whistle loudly, and 15 brooms sprang up from the ground, marking the start of the competition. As a referee, Mrs. Hooch also needs to fly up and mediate disputes in a timely manner. The moment the whistle blew, Wit began to accelerate. The firebolt could accelerate to 150 miles per hour in 10 seconds, with a top speed of over 200 miles per hour. The limit for a 1,000 speed light wheel is 100 kilometers per hour, and the limit for a 2,000 speed light wheel is 130 kilometers per hour. This speed gap is enough to drive anyone to despair. Almost in a flash, Wit broke through George and Fred's defense with a strong and domineering style, hovering high in the sky. His eyes scanned the entire field, trying to spot the golden snitch. For Victor now, finding the golden snitch is far more difficult than catching it. Finding a golden snitch, the size of a ping-pong ball that flies incredibly fast, in such a large Quidditch stadium, is indeed very troublesome. George, Fred's face was no longer smiling, he said gravely, I feel this game is in jeopardy. George nodded in agreement. That broom was simply foul. Now I know why Whit was so sure that Firebolt could dominate the game. Harry, it's up to you. We'll try our best to buy you some time, although we don't know how long we can. George and Fred spread out to the left and right, hitting the ball hard, trying to cause trouble for Whit. But this was destined to be in vain. The speed of the firebolts is far superior to that of the moving ball. Moreover, Whit now possesses James's reflexes, making it virtually impossible to hit him with such a large ball. Where exactly is the golden thief? Whit began to circle the field on his broomstick, keeping a close eye on Harry out of the corner of his eye. If Harry discovers the golden snitch before him, Whit can still catch up and snatch it away. In the stands, after Whit effortlessly evaded all of the Weasley twins' attacks as he traversed the Gryffindor team's formation with almost complete disregard, the Slytherin cheers erupted in waves. Even the words on the Slytherin banner were magically transformed into Wirt's name. The atmosphere in Gryffindor, however, was extremely tense. That broom! Lee Jordan didn't even have time to look at his favorite girl, Angelina. His eyes were fixed on the broom that Whit was sitting on. It's practically a demon king. I really wish Harry had a sword so he could. Jordan! McGonagall sternly reprimanded Lee Jordan for his remarks. But behind her stern demeanor, McGonagall was incredibly nervous, having already given up hope for the outcome of the match. I'm sorry, Professor. Wait, no. Lee Kyrodden had just finished apologizing when he suddenly let out a loud shout. Whit had spotted the golden snitch and gave chase, almost unstoppable, getting closer and closer. Closer and closer, and he reached out his hand. The match. Oh, what is he doing? Lee Jordan shouted. Whit gave up catching the golden snitch. He followed right behind it, so close he could have caught it, yet he did nothing. What is he trying to? Slytherin scored 10 points. While everyone's attention was focused on the golden snitch, Marcus seized the opportunity and scored to win 10 points. Whit gave Marcus a thumbs up and continued to follow the thief closely, even though he could easily catch him. He just wouldn't. Quidditch scores have a carryover mechanism. The larger the score difference, the more points are accumulated. The higher the probability of winning the Quidditch Academy Cup. At the same time, the score difference in a Quidditch match will be divided by 10, and then the house score will be added. In addition to the fixed 50 points for winning the game, extra points are awarded. With each additional goal scored, Slytherin would gain an extra point, and with victory now in their grasp, Whit naturally hoped that Slytherin would score as many goals as possible. With Whit repeatedly failing to catch the golden snitch despite having the opportunity, and Slytherin seizing the chance to score 5 more goals, all the Gryffindor players, including the Gryffindor spectators on the field, were furious. Humiliation. This is the humiliation of Chilulu. Professor McGonagall, please say something. Lee Jordan tugged at McGonagall's clothes, his tone extremely forceful. McGonagall remained silent, carefully recalling all the Quidditch rules, but couldn't find any that applied to the current situation. The rules of Quidditch do not prohibit this, although Mrs. Hooch also disliked this behavior. As the referee, she still made a fair judgment. Whit's actions were compliant and legal, and the match proceeded normally. Porter. In desperation, all the people of Griffin focused their attention on their savior, Potter. What is Porter doing now? Potter's broom is dancing. Harry gripped the broom tightly. He could barely keep his balance and nearly fell off several times. How could they possibly have the ability to chase the golden snitch? Harry, what are you doing? Wood roared angrily after Slytherin scored again, bringing the score to 70-0. With Whit able to catch the golden snitch at any moment, the Gryffindor players simply couldn't concentrate. while Harry was so engrossed in that he couldn't even hold a broom properly. How could this not disappoint Wood? Hearing Wood's accusatory roar, Harry, already flustered, instinctively looked up to explain. As his attention shifted, the strength in his hands involuntarily lessened. Harry fell off the broom. At that moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. Wood's face turned pale instantly, and feelings of worry and regret flashed through his mind. Harry couldn't have done it on purpose. Falling from that height would either kill or cripple you. No one would be that stupid. Some timid students covered their faces in fear. McGonagall and Flitwick drew their wands at the same time. Snape was a beat slower because he was about to cast a spell to protect Harry, but he also drew his wand. At this critical moment, a streak of light pierced through the Quidditch pitch. Whit grabbed Harry's protective suit from behind, and the immense force of the fall caused the firebolt to lose its balance and spin several times in the air. It fell towards the ground. Fortunately, Whit managed to switch to Haig's card in time, and when he fell to the ground, he managed to brace himself with his hands to prevent the fire bolt from hitting the ground and breaking. Harry was also thrown off balance, but thanks to Victor catching him, he wasn't seriously injured and was generally unharmed. Misses. Hodge suddenly blew her whistle, and the game was paused. Page 40. Thank you. Harry's tone was somewhat complicated. To be honest, Whit's behavior, which was almost humiliating, was indeed unpleasant, especially since Harry, as a Gryffindor, was the very person Whit was humiliating. The feeling of disgust increased exponentially. But it was Victor who saved him at the most crucial moment. Harry's feelings right now are incredibly complicated. Chapter 45, Division Slave. Friendship first, competition second. Whit carefully inspected the fire bolts, and after confirming that they were undamaged, he came to Harry and reached out to help him up. I just want to win a few more points for the house, within the rules. If you don't like it, then please remember that I am a Slytherin, the Slytherin that Ron calls a gathering place for villains. Bad guys always have to do bad things. Perhaps this will make you feel better. Harry was extremely puzzled by Whit's teasing. At his age, he couldn't understand why Whit would call him a bad guy so easily. It's important to know that Draco never considered himself a bad guy. When he did bad things, he even felt like he was doing something glorious. Harry didn't know what to say about Whit's behavior, but he instinctively felt that Whit wasn't that bad. As Harry fell silent, Madam Hooch would, followed by McGonagall and all the Gryffindor students, all rushed over. Oh, Harry, I'm so glad you're all right. McGonagall first hugged Harry, then let go and looked him over carefully. After confirming that Harry had only suffered minor injuries, he turned around. McGonagall had mixed feelings about Whit, but she still said, "For Whit's heroic act, Slytherin gets 20 points." McGonagall's voice automatically transformed in Whit's mind. Ding dong, you have a new treasure chest to claim. His face immediately lit up with a smile. McGonagall, Japanese letter, black square, black square. This kid is really obsessed with scores. A strange yet inexplicably fitting phrase popped into McGonagall's mind. Whit valued his college points more than his life. Can we continue the game, Mrs. Hooch asked, seeing that Harry was all right. Getting injured in a Quidditch match is perfectly normal, and since Harry is all right, she definitely has to ask him about it. I think the match should be over by now. Whit took the golden snitch out of his pocket and released it lightly. Just as Harry landed, Whit casually snatched the snitch from his hand. Why do you think he dared to be so reckless? It's because he saw Harry being cursed by Quirrell and unable to even hold a broom properly. Such a golden opportunity, he had to earn as many points as possible. Now that Harry has suddenly fallen, the match will most likely be interrupted for a while before resuming. If we don't get the golden snitch now, we'll have to search for it all over again when the game restarts. What if Harry's luck suddenly kicks in and he manages to catch the golden snitch? Wit was unwilling to take any risks. The reason he was so arrogant just now was because Harry was under Quirrell's control and unable to cause him any trouble, which is why he acted so recklessly. Commonly known as taking advantage of someone's misfortune. Friendship comes first to ghosts. If I win, then friendship is truly the most important thing. If I lose, then forget about friendship. Seeing the golden snitch in Victor's hand, Harry felt a mix of disappointment and inexplicable gratitude. If it weren't for saving him, Wit could have stalled a little longer, allowing Slytherin to score a few more points before finally catching the golden snitch. With the Firebolt's performance far exceeding that of the Light Wheel 2000, coupled with Wit's own skills, he was fully capable of doing this. Only to save him did we have no choice but to capture the golden thief ahead of time. Harry felt that his current thoughts would certainly be despised by Wood and all the Gryffindor players, but they were indeed his true thoughts. Harry thought for a long time, trying out all sorts of words, from bad to good. Victor was really. Harry thought for a long time, trying out all sorts of words. In the end, all the descriptions came down to one word. Wit was really a Slytherin. Upon seeing the golden thief in Wit's hand, Madam Hooch paused for half a second before loudly announcing. Wit caught the golden snitch. Slytherin wins. 220-0. Slytherin narrowly defeated Gryffindor. Wood felt as if all his energy had been drained away. The stadium was filled with the cheers of the Slytherin students, and he didn't even dare to look up at the scoreboard. I thought I was going to get beaten even worse. George's tone was still optimistic. Although he didn't want to lose the game, the match just now was not a game at all, but pure torture. The golden snitch is in the opponent's hands. If they dare to fight back, they will lose the game instantly. If they don't fight back, they can only watch helplessly as the opponent's score rises higher and higher. It's so good that it's over. Fred wholeheartedly agreed with George. Shut up! Wood really wanted to yell at the Weasley twins, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. He could only sullenly pound his head. In contrast to the sighs and lamentations in Gryffindor, Slytherin was filled with laughter and joy. Vita was surrounded by people like a hero. Everyone wanted to hug him, and some older female students thought he was cute and wanted to pinch his cheeks. Fortunately, Victor was strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to escape when he was squeezed so tightly. In any case, Wit became famous, and the Firebolt became the talk of the school. Everyone was talking about Wit and his broom. Back in the common room, Draco ran up to Wit with a smug look on his face. Heaven knows how much he had enjoyed himself in Gryffindor. The sight of those Gryffindors, especially Ron and Harry, looking utterly dejected, was a source of immense pleasure for Draco. The only minor drawback is, Wit, you shouldn't have saved Harry. You just let him fall like that. Draco's tone revealed undisguised malice. Are you sure? Wit turned his head and asked softly, Are you really sure you hate Harry that much? Can you imagine Harry dying? Of course Draco thought he could answer easily, but his brain responded with a blank. Describe it properly. Describe how Harry died. Describe the scene after Harry's death. If you really wanted Harry to die, you could imagine the intoxicating and delightful scene, Wit said in a low voice. Seeing Draco remain silent, Wit gently patted his shoulder and walked away calmly. Wit didn't expect his words to make Draco realize his true feelings. He only hoped that Draco would come to him less often about Harry's affairs in the future. You like to cause trouble, but you're unhappy when you get frustrated. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Honestly, if it weren't for the possibility of needing Lucius's help in the future, and the fact that the relationship between Whit and Snape was only so-so, requiring Draco to act as a mediator then. Whit really didn't want to talk to Draco. That said, Draco is very easy to please. A few flattering words are enough to make him lose his bearings. Currently, Vittoria and Draco maintain a relationship that is neither too close nor too distant. If there's something to discuss, I'll try to get close to you. Otherwise, we'll just do our own thing. I can say a few words along with what you're saying, but if you really want me to do what you say, that's impossible. Unless he needed Draco's help like he did at the start of the school year, Whit would at most give verbal approval and flatter him a few times, but he would absolutely not actually do anything. We Slytherin don't do business at a loss. Chapter 46, Blood Alliance. 4 treasure chests. This was the first time Whit had received 4 treasure chests at once since enrolling at Hogwarts. He's really regretting it now. Why didn't he set a pity system? You can't make a single-player game completely random. People are always so contradictory. When he was designing the game, Whit thought the pure randomness setting was really interesting. In this chaotic world, he was still able to stick to his own ideas and make the game purely random without setting a pity system. He is simply a model pioneer in the game industry. But now that Whit has become a player, what the heck? Did the game designer get kicked in the head by a donkey? What era are we living in that they're still doing pure randomness? Wouldn't it be better for the zombies of the old days to just stay in their grave? Why do they have to come out and disgust people? In short, I deeply regret it. After making a few self-criticisms, Whit, as usual, began to pray to the gods and offer sacrifices. Since James was pulled last time, Dumbledore seems to have lost his appeal. Whit sacrificed a lot of things, including Dumbledore's crooked nose, but still couldn't get anything good. Instead, they received a Slytherin chocolate frog card. This is a rare card. Draco begged Whit to buy it for 5 galleons. Aside from the magic stone powder, this card is the most valuable thing Whit has ever gotten. It's also pathetic. Hopefully, these 4 treasure chests won't suffer the same fate as their predecessors. Dumbledore is useless. This time, let's find someone else to sacrifice. Merlin above, Whit prayed earnestly. I would give up Grindelwald's lifetime of infertility in exchange for my shipment today. Open. Magic stone powder. 1 box of BB multi-flavor beans. Blood Alliance. Page 41. White fresh flavoring. As the 4 boxes opened simultaneously, Whit's gaze instantly focused on the only item emitting a purple light. The blood oath between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. One of the strongest artifacts in the early game. It can randomly borrow the magic of Dumbledore or Grindelwald to unleash a powerful attack. Extremely large coverage area, a screen-clearing marvel. The only downside is the long cooldown time. It takes a long time to cool down after each use before you can use it again. It's unclear how long the cooldown time is in the real world. Whit wanted to try it out with the blood oath, but he was worried that the cooldown time was too long. If he used it now and then needed to use it later, the blood oath wouldn't be ready and he wouldn't be able to use it, which would be ridiculous. Moreover, he was currently at Hogwarts Castle, and Whit remembered that his powerful attack in the game was actually a fire shield and a fire god's path. Under Dumbledore's watchful eye at Hogwarts, it would be difficult to explain which magical word appeared. I'll save it for when I have the chance, Whit thought, putting away the blood oath and continuing his reading and studying. Whit didn't know. The moment the blood pact appeared, Hogwarts, Ermengarde, Dumbledore, and Grindelwald all looked up at the same time, their eyes meeting for the first time in half a century. Dumbledore even suspected he was under a confusion charm, and his senses were playing tricks on him. But no matter how he waved his wand to dispel the spell, that familiar feeling persisted. Blood oath, the blood oath with Grindelwald. How could this be? Dumbledore gripped the Elder Wand tightly. He had witnessed the destruction of the blood pact with his own eyes. How could it possibly reappear? In that instant, Dumbledore was so agitated that he wanted to fly directly to Nurmengard to find Grindelwald and get to the bottom of things. After hesitating for a long time, Dumbledore did not take any action. Whether before or after the blood pact was broken, it was Dumbledore who betrayed the alliance. He was the one who wanted to end the relationship first. It wasn't that Dumbledore didn't care about the relationship, but rather that he had things he cared about more and greater interests at stake. Go see Grindelwald. After arriving, I was forcibly taken control of by the Blood Alliance, and then. That's too dangerous. Dumbledore can't take that risk right now. Nymengard, Grindelwald also stood up, even though he was now over 100 years old, and his body had been completely hollowed out by half a century of imprisonment. The handsome face was long gone, leaving only a skeleton-like body. Even standing up seemed so difficult. But if he were willing to leave Nurmengard, Grindelwald had countless ways to restore his body and prolong his life. Just. Grindelwald staggered a step, then smiled and lay back down. Dumbledore hadn't written to him in a long time. He wasn't even willing to send some parchment. But this letter was more precious than any letter he had ever received before combined. Despite the thin blanket he was wearing and the heavy snow falling outside, Grindelwald still felt confident that he would get a warm and restful sleep tonight. December, Christmas, is just around the corner. Most of the students at Hogwarts were packing up their belongings, preparing to go home and spend Christmas with their families. Only a small number of students choose to stay on campus for various reasons. Of course, Victor couldn't stay at school. He had already checked his belongings and decided to go home. Whit had originally planned to take James back with him, but James didn't want to leave. The white crocus inside the castle would be ready to harvest in a little while, and going back would mean missing the best time to pick them. Having worked so hard on the land for so long, watering, fertilizing, and pest control every day, James really couldn't bear to leave. With no other option, Whit had to take the Serpent demon home with him. At King's Cross Station, Grandpa York was already waiting there. When he saw Whit get off the train, he quickly ran over to him. He grabbed Whit's ear. "You brat, why do you always reply with Oh, I understand, or I know when I write to you. Is Hogwarts ink that expensive? Will it kill you to write a few more words?" Grandpa York grabbed Whit's head without any politeness and shook it violently. "Stop shaking me, you've already shaken my brains to a crisp." Although Whit could have forcefully broken free from York's grasp, he didn't. Instead, he took out a small wooden box and presented it as a treasure. "Grandpa, won't you take a look at the gift I brought you? Tooth-changing potion, blood-activating potion, bone-strengthening potion. Teeth regeneration, blood circulation improvement, and bone strengthening are perfect for treating your toothache and chronic leg pain." After learning magic, Whit realized why Dumbledore, despite his advanced age, ate candy every day and still had such firm teeth. Brush your teeth regularly and use a tooth-strengthening potion to keep them healthy. When your teeth really can't take it anymore and you reach the age where they're used, use the potion to replace them with a new set of teeth. Since they only need to be replaced every 40 or 50 years, it won't have much of an impact on your health. Dumbledore's current teeth are the new teeth he got when he was 100 years old. How could his teeth not be good? "You have no idea how much effort I put into getting these things," Whit whispered. "Hurry up and put them away. Don't let the Ministry of Magic see them. It would be bad if they confiscated them. At least you have some conscience. York quickly put away the potion, glanced around furtively to make sure no one had noticed, and then took Wit's hand and left King's Cross Station. In the car, after York started the engine, he asked curiously, "You said you wanted to build a greenhouse at home. What was the purpose of that?" "It took me a lot of effort to run around to a bunch of departments before I finally got the permit. The shed is all built. What are you planning to plant?" "Nothing much," Victor said casually. "Just some safe and harmless magical plants. James is working so hard. Hagrid can't just sit idle forever. He should spend his free time farming, and farming as many treasure chests as he can. The plant Dictamnus dasycarpus is safe and harmless and doesn't move much. Unless a wizard happens to enter the greenhouse, Wit doesn't need to worry about being discovered at all. Moreover, as a powerful magical creature, the dung of the yak Hagrid is extremely beneficial to the growth of magical plants like white dew. Considering the price of dragon dung, Wit felt he had lost over 100 million over the past decade. Chapter 47, Christmas. How's it going at Hogwarts? What magic have you learned? How are your grades? York asked curiously as he drove. Is there even a need to ask? Wit said smugly. Your grandson is definitely number 1 in his grade. Magic is something you can learn quickly and master once you start using it, including Quidditch. I'm the youngest seeker in school now, a real campus celebrity, a big star. Have you made any friends? York asked in a low voice, the kind of close friends. Have. Before Wit could finish speaking, York interrupted him. Tell the truth. No. Wit's expression changed, and he said with some helplessness, I can't confide in those people, but there's a retired professor who likes me a lot. Does that count as friendship, despite the age gap? A retired professor? York asked curiously. Wizards can retire. That's not bad. Have you thought about what you want to do when you grow up? I don't understand things in the magic world, so I can't help you with anything. You don't need to worry about that, Wit said casually. Minister of Magic, President of the International Confederation of Wizards, Headmaster of Hogwarts, I could take any of those roles. Magic is something I can do with my hands. You're exaggerating, York said with a chuckle. Then show me a spell. Wit was speechless. He whispered, the Ministry of Magic does not allow underage wizards to cast spells outside of school, and adults are not allowed to cast spells in front of muggles. However, I can brew some magic potion for you. White cinnamon essence is quite good. It's especially effective for treating external injuries. If your cows or sheep are injured, just a drop will make them heal immediately. I just have to be careful not to let anyone see me, otherwise I might get expelled. Wizarding law has only one punishment for muggles. No matter what a muggle has done, their memories are altered and they are released back into the wild. Don't get me wrong, this isn't some muggle-friendly law. Rather, it is a special law that is high above all others. If a wizard makes a mistake, the wizard will deal with it. Even if someone in your family dies because of it, you have no right to know the reason. After the memory is erased or altered, you can leave. The specific trial results and punishments are none of your concern. Similarly, if a muggle happens to kill a wizard or does something that harms a wizard, the Ministry of Magic will still erase the muggle's memory and put him back, regardless of the reason. No other penalties were imposed. As for the injured wizard or his family, although you have the memory, you are not allowed to retaliate against that muggle. If you dare to retaliate, you will be severely punished by the Ministry of Magic's laws. This is the magical world's attitude towards muggles, aloof yet strangely fair. It is precisely because of the Ministry of Magic's treatment of muggles that most wizards voluntarily stay away from them. Even if they live next door, wizards will not take the initiative to communicate with muggles. Arthur, who loves muggle culture so much, didn't go to muggles for fun. Instead, he chose to learn about muggle society through Harry, a wizard who lived in a muggle family. The law stipulates that if he is injured in a conflict, you will be punished, but if you are injured, he will be unharmed. Not only will you have to accept your bad luck, but you might also be ridiculed for a wizard being injured by a muggle. At this point, most wizards would naturally choose to stay away from muggles and avoid causing trouble for themselves. The laws of the Ministry of Magic both despise muggles and restrict wizards. This created a delicate balance, which allowed the secrecy law to remain intact for centuries. If you get caught, you'll be expelled. Hearing Wit's words, York suddenly became worried. What about those potions you gave me before? Why are you thinking so much? Wit said irritably. You drink it at home, and then give me back the bottles and jars. Who will know you drank the potion then? Don't worry about it. For his grandfather's health, Vit doesn't care if he gets expelled from school. Does being expelled mean he can't be the Minister of Magic? Page 42. History tells Wit that getting into the Ministry of Magic is nowhere near as fast as getting in through connections. Whether or not he goes to school, the Serpent Demon's talent is undeniable. Even if he becomes a dark wizard, he will be the strongest dark wizard. You mean Voldemort? There's only one Voldemort, but two Werthers. It's such a simple arithmetic that it's 2 to 1. Do we even need to calculate it? After listening to Wit's words, York remained silent for a while before saying, Then I'll just drink the medicine that's supposed to cure me, but I'll skip the white cinnamon. If my cattle or sheep get injured, I'll call a veterinarian. If they can't be treated, I'll just slaughter them. There's no need to take that risk. Whatever you say. As long as York takes his medicine, Wit doesn't care about anything else. York uses white dictamnus flavoring whenever it wants, and doesn't use it when it doesn't. Wit had no interest in speaking up for cattle and sheep. He was only interested in salting them. Christmas. Wit rented a poor owl to help him deliver his gifts. Professor Slughorn's pineapple preserves and mead, Professor Snape's gurgling spirit, Lawrence's euphoria, and Draco's Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. In short, they gave away all the wits they could. Even Harry received a box of chocolate frogs from Victor. The box was full of these snacks, too many to eat, and too much time and effort to sell at a stall, so Victor had no choice but to give them away. Every student at Hogwarts who had even met Wit once, and whose name they could recall, was eligible. After a busy day, Mr. Owl was so tired that his wings were almost broken, and several times he wanted to sneak up on Victor and bite him. The gifts on the ground were finally swept away. Cuckoo! The owl glared angrily at Wit, vowing that even if it were so poor that it had to hunt mice in the wild, it would never work for Wit again. This person clearly didn't intend for it to live. Don't be angry. Wit handed over a piece of fresh beef and coaxed gently. It's just that